Greetings, BookTube. How you doing? Welcome to all you subscribers. Welcome to those who are visiting. Welcome to those who are visiting and becoming subscribers as of today by hitting the subscribe button. It's all you got to do. And then you get to know when I'm posting stuff and new material is coming up and when me and the pack are going to be on the screen. Anyway, today is the second installment in my 120 favorite books. And as you know, I'm doing this 10 books a month, and the kids are helping here, right? Sure they are. You dropped your toy. There you go. Okay, yes, so 120 favorite books, 10 books a month, 1 year of episodes on my favorite books. How much fun is that? I love talking about books. That's why it's called Michael Romeo Talks Books, right? And he talks Yorkies. Yeah, you got your ball. Yeah, I see. We're not going to throw it right now, though, okay? Alrighty. So, as you know, with Pack is here. We got Toby up here behind me. And we got TARDIS here with her ball. And down here we got the little Tetley, smallest of all Yorkies. And down here we've got the Princess Toffee saying, "Hi." And on the chair over here is Trappist, who doesn't like to get on camera. So I'm going to get him on camera. He's a big Yorkie. I mean, you see Yorkies, how their size. He weighs in at over 20 pounds. He's a big Yorkie, and that's not because he's fat. It's because he's big. He's just big for the breed, and it just makes him a great looking dog. Anyway, 120 books. 10 books a month. This is the second installment, so we're doing books 11 to 20. And I'm going to post a link to the first episode in the description. So if you missed it, you can go back and see what books 1 to 10 were. Okay? So anyway, oh, and remember, these are not in any kind of order of favorites. They're just all favorites. There's no way I can pick just one favorite book. I've tried that and it just didn't work. So these are just all favorite books, and they happen to be in the order which they occurred to me to put on the list. Okay? So here we go. The Young Lions by Irwin Shaw. This is an incredible book. It's set during World War II, and it follows the experiences of three men. One is a studio producer in Hollywood, and also does some stuff in New York, if I recall correctly, who signs up out of honor. He wants to, make a difference in the war. And then there's a young guy he's kind of a ne'er-do-well, jack of all trades, master of none, who has recently gotten married and basically needs an income. And the army is probably the best place to get that income. Third one is a German officer who is bit by bit burning out on the war. And their paths intertwine, but it is a deep novel. It gets into what war does inside a person that's fighting it, and it's a touching novel. It's a couple of places where you need some Kleenex, because it does provoke some tear jerking, and it's a great story, and Irwin Shaw is a great writer, so it's no surprise that it's on my favorites, because he's one of my favorite writers. And then number 12, the book that I call the Great American Novel, Lonesome Dub by Larry McMurtry. And I'm sure if you've been following my channel, you've heard me talk about Lonesome Dub before. It's been on some other list of mine. I've talked about it. Other people on BookTube have been talking about it. It seems to have been a plethora of people reading it this past summer. Lonesome Dub is just an amazing novel about it's set in the West. The dying Wild West, but it's not just a Western. It's not a John Wayne type story. It's a story about people. It's a story about friendship and loyalty. It's a story about relationships, um, about fears, and about finding meaning in your life. It's a wonderful story full of wonderful characters, well drawn characters. Even the villains are characters you enjoy reading about because they're just so vivid. And then going on, we've got number 13, The Lords of Discipline by Pat Conroy. Those of you who like dark academia, this is your book. Written in the 70s, it is a story of a military academy that admits its first African American student. And let's just say some people are not excited by this turn of events. And things do take a dark turn. And when some cadets try to put things right and try to uncover what's going on, they just get themselves in deeper. And very powerful story. It's also set in Charleston, south of Broad, as they refer to it, which is the posh area of Charleston. So there's a lot of that thread, that theme going through it about the bigotry that comes not just from racism, but from I have money and you don't, which is a real thing. And then number 14, we've got The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. What can you say? It's a classic. It is a classic about a man who is an enigma and the people that his life affects. The lost love of Daisy Buchanan, and how he tries to patch it up and bring it back to life. And there's just a number of themes that run through this book, and it is just amazingly written. F. Scott Fitzgerald is a writer's writer. It's that simple. His writing is it's full of nuance, full of layers, full of detail, full of writing, full of writing. Second is actually my favorite F. Scott Fitzgerald novel, and that is This Side of Paradise. Close runner-up for The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is the close runner-up. But This Side of Paradise is a more autobiographical novel for F. Scott Fitzgerald, about his Princeton days. And the thing about this book that really blows me away is some of the conversations. In his short work, he is known for his detail and his setting and making every little nuance in the setting real for you so that you feel like you're there with the characters. And this one is the dialogue that shines. There are some conversations in it that are just riveting, and one in particular, about 2/3 of the way through the book, that I read the first time I read the book, I read the conversation several times just because I wanted to see how he did it, how he pulled it off and made it so dynamic. Next, we have The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. This is a wonderful story about Chinese peasants. I won't give away a lot about it because there are spoilers all through the book. And TARDIS, you need to relax, okay? No, you need to relax. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Say hi to everybody. Say hi, people. Okay. The Good Earth. Story of a small peasant family in China. And excuse me a second. Go play. Go play. Good Earth, story of a small peasant family in China. We'll try this again. Oh, you're back now? Okay. Let's just say it's a story of a small peasant family in China and move on to the next book. It's a great book, though. I've read it several times, listened to it on audiobook. It's just, it's a really wonderful story, well written. What this family goes through, the good and the bad, is the stuff of literature. It's wonderful. Another story set in China is The Keys to the Kingdom by A.J. Cronin, another favorite of mine, about a Scottish priest who is a bit troublesome because of his forward thinking, and pretty much the bishop wants to get rid of him, so he sends him on a mission to China. Figures this will be the last we hear from him. And he gets sent to this village with a mission that has been left to decay and run down, but he takes his job seriously, as he would when you read the book. It's no surprise that when he gets there, he doesn't throw up his hands and give up, but takes on the challenge of building the mission that he's been sent to work at, which basically no longer exists because it's been so long since anybody's worked there. He ends up spending the better part of his life in China, going through the war between China and Japan, and going through the plague that devastated so much of China in the time period that it's set. It's set in the early 1900s, and just a great story. Bandits ruling. Come on, you want to come up? Come on, Jack. Come on, I'm going to get you in front of this camera. Come on. Come on, this room. There you go. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. This is my big boy Trappist. Finally on camera. Hey. He's a big boy. He's my buddy. My buster. Yeah. Okay. So anyway. Children. I'm sure those of you who have children understand. Keys to the Kingdom, still on that. Bandits rule. Gangs of bandits rule. Just the trials that this guy goes through and faces to build this mission and keep it running is an adventure story that will keep you flipping the pages. Just flipping pages. And has some twists in it toward the end. Some unexpected developments. So we'll go there. Next one, number 18, My Antonia by Willa Cather. This is a book I've loved since I was about 12 years old and first read it. My mother had bought it from the International Collectors Library Book Club. And I picked it up and I read it, and I was just swept away. Absolutely swept away by the story, by the character of Antonia, as well as the other characters, but Antonia especially. I think it was my first literary love was Antonia. And I've read the book a lot of times since. I read it again in my later teens. I read it several times in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s, in my 50s. I'm now in my 60s, and I'm going to read it again. And every time I read it, I get a little something more out of it, even though it's just, it's a tiny book. It's not long at all. There are people who could read it in one sitting. I'm somewhat of a slow reader, so that's not me. But there's just so much packed into that little book that you can't help but be swept away. It's set in the Midwest. The Scandinavian immigration to the Midwest, and this young boy He's orphaned and is going to live with his grandparents. He's going from Virginia to out in the middle of, I believe it's Nebraska. I've read it so many times I should know for sure. I'm pretty sure it's Nebraska. And the culture shock that he faces when he gets there, but he meets Antonia, who is a little bit older than him, who is a recent emigre from Romania, and they have an instant friendship that blossoms, and as they get older, the boy wants it to be more than just a friendship. He actually starts to fall in love with Antonia, but she, for her own reasons, doesn't want to go there. Great book. Great book. And then the last two on today's list of my 120 books, 11 to 20, are both written by Norah Lofts. Now, my little rant about Norah Lofts and the publisher that marketed her. She was known for writing romance novels, and she wrote some romance novels. That's undisputable. But there are some of her books that she wrote that were not romance novels. But the publisher marketed them as if they were romance novels, just so they would continue to sell to her demographic. My mother-in-law was an avid Norah Lofts fan, and I have got a bunch of her books, the ones that used to belong to my mother-in-law, and I've read a good chunk of them. And yes, the romances are good. I enjoyed the romances too, but the two that are on the list here are not romance. But you look at the cover and you think they're going to be romance, and that always irked me a little bit about her non-romance books, that the publisher would blatantly falsify the marketing just to reach an audience that they thought would buy the book. The first one is Winter's Harvest, and this book is it's about a group of people in a wagon train heading west from New York? I believe it's New York, if I recall. It's been a while since I read this one. It becomes a thinly disguised telling of what happened to the Donner Party. And when you get to, they are snowed in the mountain pass. Those of you who don't know about the Donner Party, it was a wagon train of settlers who left the east to go west and ended up stuck in a mountain pass in a horrible blizzard and could not get out, and what they had to resort to survive. And I think if you think about that a second, you'll kind of know where the story goes. And it is told, the darker parts of it, the more difficult parts, when they start finding sustenance among their dear departed, let's just say, is told a lot through journal entries. And some of it is, all of it is gripping, some of it is disturbing, and all of it is just absolutely riveting. It's you're right there with the people. You're right there fighting the fight with them, and going through the ups and downs with them. And some of it is just heart-wrenching when you get to it. The second book, Knight's Acre, is about a man who goes off on a crusade, one of the crusades, and leaves his wife on the farm at home. And the story goes back and forth between the two. The wife left at the farm at home, and her counseling with the local priest, and him off on his crusade and what he's doing, and how the themes kind of overlay each other. with what's going on in with the wife's life and what's going on in his life. And again, it's a very non-romance, and there's some really gory battle scenes. Some stuff that I never thought about when people are fighting wearing full armor. Some of the things that could happen. She depicts some of them, and it's like, oh my god, are you serious? And we're not going to spoil it for you in case you go and read it. But Night's Acre it's an adventure novel, not a romance. It's an adventure novel. On the paperback copy of it, there's a picture on the front with some blurb, and I would pull it out, except it's packed away at the moment. The picture on the cover and the blurb depict basically the last chapter of the book, and totally mislead the reader into what that picture means and what's actually happening. And again, it's a marketing disaster. Could easily have been marketed as an adventure novel, and not just sold to her usual readership, but gained a new readership, among men who like adventure novels. It's another page turner. And Naomi Lofts she's a British writer. She wrote mostly in the 1940s through the 1960s, somewhat into the 70s. I don't think she made it into the 80s. I think she died by then. But she's a great writer, and these two books, Winter Harvest and Night's Acre, are my two favorites of hers. So that's books 11 through 20 of my 120 favorite books. Again, we're going to do this every month for a whole year. It'll go through August of 2023, and we'll have my 120 books revealed. And keep tuning in, find out what they are, because there's some surprises in there. Like I had one person on my last one, the first episode, where I ended it with The Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne, and she was just like, are you serious? After all the other books that were listed, to end with a pop novel by Jacqueline Suzanne really took her by surprise, and I kind of had fun with that. And there's some surprises in there. There's some books that probably, like even today, there's probably some books people have never heard of because they just don't have the reputation that lasted. But I'm keeping them alive. I mean, that's one of the points of my channel: books of the 20th century, keeping them alive. And there's some on here. I mean, these are all books of the 20th century. I've got nothing on here that is new literature. And all of these were popular books at one time or another. And that's my passion, 20th century novels. So, moving forward, next time in the month of October, first week of October, I'll be back with numbers 21 through 30. 21 through 30. Yeah, 30 follows the 20s, Michael. 21 through 30. And I almost want to do them now, because this is fun. But anyway, we'll be back. Remember about Poetry Thursday, where I read a bit of poetry that I like. Sometimes I read poetry I wrote. And remember about Friday First Pages, where I read the first page of a novel or a nonfiction book. I haven't done nonfiction yet, but I will. And we've discussed whether or not it has a hook from the beginning, or does it have to sink the hook later on because it misses it on the first page. And down in the comments, discuss any of these books that I came up with. What are some of your favorite books that you would put on this list, especially considering the 20th century focus of some of this? What are books that you would add? I would love to find that out. I may go, oh yeah, I got to put that on the list, and then I'll have to be doing special mentions after the 120. I'll have to do another video of the ones that got away, and probably go up to 150. I don't know, maybe. So we'll talk again with y'all later. I do enjoy talking with you folks. I do enjoy this whole book 2 adventure, and look forward to your comments down below. Talk to you all again later. Bye bye.